We are jumping right back into the action on Haason Reddick and talking about his situation with the New York Jets up until this point. Technically a member of the New York Jets, but is he really? If he hasn't stepped onto the field, we haven't seen him in any training gear near his teammates or anything like that. Over contract reasons up until this point, we are fully now in the thick of things of training camp, and the fans in New York are wondering when this could finally be resolved with Haason Reddick. Just to go over some things to kind of recap everything to know how we got to this point and where we could go after that. We're going to recap. I'm going to give you guys some context about this entire situation and how a misunderstanding led to this whole other situation now. It's a little bit confusing, so try and follow along with me as we try and break it down. Haason Reddick obviously was traded to the New York Jets back on April 1st, and since then he hasn't been present, obviously, through OTAs and minicamp as he enters the final year of his contract that he did sign with the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2022. It was a 3-year deal, so now he's entering into that final year, and he wants an extension or at least something reworked up until now, but nothing has really happened with the New York Jets, and it has since been reported by SNY that he does continue to continue this holdout now into training camp until something is worked out with his contract. And further along, SNY claimed that the New York Jets were open to an extension even before the trade was finalized with Haason Reddick. They were already thinking about it. Obviously thinking and knowing that Haason would want something resolved with his contract. According to SNY, they offered a contract extension before the trade was even finalized, and this contract extension that they did offer to Haason before the trade, and then once the trade was finalized, it did include a raise in his salary, but it wasn't what Haason Reddick was looking for at that current moment. Sources say that Haason wants around $25 to $28 million in any new contract that he wants to receive, but it seems like that's not going to be a problem for the Jets because more reports say that the Jets are willing to make him one of the highest paid edge rushers in the NFL. But now comes the problems and the misunderstandings and trying to figure out who's going to budge first, really, because it seems like there shouldn't be a problem, right? Because the Jets want to make him a high paid edge rusher. Haason wants to be a high paid edge rusher. So where is the disconnect? Well, in order for the Jets to get to the point where they officially offer him the contract for him to sign and everything like that to be one of the highest paid edge rushers, the Jets and Reddick, apparently, according to SNY, had an understanding that in order to get that deal, to negotiate that contract even further, Haason Reddick needed to show up to training camp, at least to minicamp through the offseason, and at least be there, and then into the regular season as well. And then eventually during the regular season, the Jets were hoping to come to terms with a new contract and offer it to him during the regular season. But in the meantime, they were also willing to restructure his current deal to maybe give him a little bit more money, give him a little bit more guaranteed money for the time being for showing up to training camp, minicamp, and the offseason. And then they were going to work out something during the regular season. But he needed to show up and perform, and they were willing to do that. The Jets were willing to do that if they got a little bit from Haason Reddick. But with that being said, SNY continued to mention how the Jets had an understanding that Reddick was on board, and they even went as far as saying that Reddick told the Jets that he would be there, he would be present during the offseason, that they came to an understanding. Haason Reddick thought it was going to be fair that just showing up, get a restructured deal, and then lead into a contract extension. SNY claims that that was all understood at that point in time when Haason was traded to the Jets, when everything was getting finalized. That was the understanding between both of them, apparently. But you guys can obviously see, if you're following the situation, none of that happened. None of that actually did happen. He's holding out, didn't show up at all, and now the Jets are unwilling to obviously hand out that extension, unwilling to hand out that contract restructure. And in the same breath, Haason Reddick is also unwilling to show up to training camp now until he gets an extension or probably more guaranteed money. So that's where we are right now as we start here in the first week of training camp. that's where there was a bit of a misunderstanding. You thought you had a compromise if you're the Jets, but apparently not. Haason wants an extension sooner than you would have hoped, but now we find ourselves at a point where who's going to budge first, who's going to give in first, really, to get this thing moving, because right now you have two parties just staring at each other, just waiting for the other one to blink, really, to see if anybody moves up until that point. But with all this craziness going on, and this just misunderstanding of words, reports say that the Jets are not worried about Reddick's, absence affecting him during the regular season. They're pretty confident in that once he does show up, hopefully sooner rather than later, that he will be ready. They are confident that he is training, he is getting ready for the season. So that isn't something that they're too worried about, the fact that he's not there. And also, they hope he does show up soon, obviously, but they want to restructure his deal currently, and then they want to work on that extension, like I said, heading into the regular season. The sooner he shows up, hopefully the sooner they can get that done for him. But again, they're unwilling to make that first step, which is something I will address in just a few seconds. But just to round out all the context of it, sources tell SNY that there's a 0% chance that this gets to any point where the Jets consider releasing him or trading Haason Reddick, despite all this extra baggage that has come with just getting Haason on the field close to his teammates. They're not going to get to a point at all, it seems like, they're going to trade him or anything like that. So right now they're getting tested a little bit. Their patience is getting tested with Haason Reddick. So when can we expect him to get there? Well, to give a clear answer, you don't honestly know. It's a weird situation where from the Jets standpoint, you knew that you were going to be taking on this deal. And most likely you knew that Haason Reddick was going to want a contract extension, like most players do. Even if you had an understanding somewhat with Haason at the beginning of it, not to say that you shouldn't have trusted that, but every player, it seems like, gets to a point where they go to the offseason, OTAs, and minicamp. And like I mentioned, I think it was yesterday or the episode before, with just how the offseason is structured, players, more often than not, if they don't even want to admit it, but they definitely think it, that the offseason just isn't something, the way it's structured right now, isn't something that they feel too inclined, too obligated to attend, especially when, like Aaron Rodgers pointed out, Haason's teammate, that OTAs and minicamp weren't really too different at all. One was called minicamp, but they were still on an OTA schedule, like Aaron Rodgers said. So that piled on top of the fact that Haason just wants a contract extension, you can be surprised that he wasn't there, but also, are you really surprised if Haason just didn't show up because he starts working out by himself, he hears everything coming out at a camp, and knowing that everything really isn't too different from the benefits he can get from working out from himself? Not to call the Jets naive or anything like that, but to fully believe that he was going to show up and, kind of have this gentleman's agreement that he was just going to show up and have all the confidence in the Jets to get this done. You don't have to fully think that they're naive, but again, you almost had to have this little thought in the back of your head that this could be a possibility, and now it is a possibility. And I've heard a lot of people in media talk about, the Jets should just, give in, should just hand over, take the first step, be the bigger person in these negotiations, and just say, all right, Haason, we're going to give you what you want. We're going to restructure it, and then you just show up, because of the bigger picture around the New York Jets, that they haven't had success since 2010 was the last time they made the playoffs. So they're in a situation right now where they're desperate, honestly. To put it in simplest terms, they're desperate. They need to have success. They already got Aaron Rodgers back. This is such a crucial season for the Jets that I do understand the point that at some point the Jets can't, stand on their ego or pride or anything like that, because they have no room to. They have no room to do that when they just need some glimpse of hope. And now that they finally do have it, they're trying to play hardball, like almost like they don't need Haason to show up. Almost, it seems like they don't need him. They'll just wait it out, think that he's gonna buckle down first, and think he's just gonna come back. In context, in terms of long term, history with the Jets and with Haason, people don't like the stance that the Jets are taking right now, and I'm not agreeing that the Jets should waver and just give in right away, but it's going to get to a point, I believe, where that's seriously going to become a possibility. I don't think you do it now. You can stand on your pride right now and say that we're not going to give in yet. We're just going to wait it out and see. And that's not a bad thing, but once you get into August, now that we're getting closer and closer to the month of August and preseason like that, if nothing's really moving, the Jets just almost have to look at this like, all right, we're not gaining anything with just sitting here with our hands, or with just sitting on our hands. Let's just go out there and talk to him, tell him we're going to extend him, and work something out with more urgency. And then at that point, you can get him back in the building, get him to maybe ease up on his stance, get him back in the building, and then you could work something out more urgently. Whereas right now, it doesn't seem like they're really taking too many steps to do that as of right now. So this could carry on for maybe the next week, but after that, I think the Jets should just, quite honestly, just stop playing around, go out there, get Haason to come back, extend him. If that's already your thought based on the sources and SNY reporting it, you might as well just go do it, throw everything aside and just get it done. Then you don't have to worry about anything else, and you don't have to worry about everybody else talking about these issues away from football that you guys have to deal with. And that's where it stands right now. You don't know a clear answer where it could go, but that's the way I'm feeling about Haason and the Jets. That's where I think this could carry on, and how the Jets could just resolve this, move on, because it is in their best interest that Haason is out there on the field because of how much is riding on this season. On the defensive side of the ball, you're confident, but you reach another level with Haason Reddick also being out there for your team. And now that you have Aaron Rodgers back, you just want to eliminate everything else and just focus on football. At least that's where I'm at with the Jets. Hopefully they get it done and Haason signs an extension with them so they could just focus on football. But let me know what you guys think about it. Do you guys side more on the side of the Jets? Should they wait it out, or should they just stop playing around and just give Haason what he wants? Leave it in the chat box or in the comments section in this video. But in the meantime, we're going to move on. We're going to head into a quick break, and when we return, we're going to get into that interview that Kyle Shanahan had this week with The Athletic, talking about Bill Belichick almost joining the 49ers, Brock Purdy and his extension next offseason, and also just some general contract talks about his team and paying some of these guys a lot of money from Kyle Shanahan. We're going to get to that right after this break.